Welcome to Flirting with Friendship. On today's episode, we have John Acquaviva, by far maybe the most famous DJ that you've never heard of.
Today's guest really shouldn't need an introduction. John Acquaviva, co-founder of Plus8 and Definitive Records, architects of the modern techno and tech house genre. He championed Final Scratch, opening the door for Traktor, and co-founded Beatport, changing how DJs buy and play music forever. And I have to point out that this is a guy who's been mixing since the disco days. Really, he's built his career purely from skills, from his ears, from his instinct behind the decks. He's your favorite DJ's favorite DJ. Ladies and gentlemen, the legend, John Acquaviva.
Welcome on the show, John. So happy to have you here. John actually was the reason, as part of the reason that I am sitting in this seat here. I've told you this story before, but when I was a kid, so John was part of Plus8. You know, he started all this Definitive Records. Growing up to me, there was DJs and then there was John Acquaviva. It was like the king, the mixes on Force, my range, I think that idea of a DJ having such a big range came, I think, from you. From where we're from, being from London, Ontario, me from Kalamazoo, Michigan, But when I was a kid, John was playing at this very famous club in Detroit at the time, Motor. And I gave him a mix CD, 2 mix CDs actually. On them, left my little email or whatever. I get an email back. One, he was like, Other one, he said, "This is pretty good. Stick with it, kid." And that was the one thing that kind of was like, I can fucking do this. It was the kindest thing. I never listened to kids' demos. I think you listen to everyone's. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you.
It's a pleasure, and it really is that simple. Just having the courtesy. Sometimes you're busy. But look, if I can just say a nice word, I want to make the world a better place. The artistic side of me. It's a pleasure when I meet people. It's great to be having a conversation with 2 other DJs I hugely respect, storytellers. I come from that school. So what a great opportunity, instead of listening to us play music, to actually have that conversation.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. You're like one of the only DJs I think ever to transfer out of being a DJ. You're still DJ. But you know what I'm saying? Tell us a little bit about your journey.
So,
your journey, John.
Depending on the different groups I talk to, and I do enjoy sharing stories to hopefully inspire, motivate, or just explain, how I got here. I like to say I was a DJ when it wasn't cool to be a DJ, but luckily I grew up right in the middle of Toronto and Detroit, and I can honestly tell you that I'm the last of a group of 4 great DJs who are unsung heroes, but Toronto is a great city. It too was a well-kept secret. And I inherited the #1 position in 1982 at my discotheque, and being a DJ was like being a football player, both American and European, in that you play the whole match.
John's not kidding. Back then, playing the whole match meant literally the whole night. 10, 12 hours behind the decks. Today, people lose their minds for an hour-and-a-half festival set. It's kind of ridiculous. Zero patience. Get it done in an hour-and-a-half. No room for anything, no journey, no storytelling. Now imagine the same set stretched until sunrise. 9 more hours of it, which, to be honest, we don't really need 9 hours of some of these DJs. I won't name names. But yeah, that was normal. That was a job.
And my friend got a job in Toronto at the Copa. He was making $2,500 a week in 1982. So I come from a school of DJs that we made money. Hence, I was able to make good money in Canada, buy a studio, but I was drawn to Detroit. And so, again, I was a DJ. It wasn't cool, except I was also realistic and pragmatic, because there's another part of me that's a math nerd, and I can add and subtract in my sleep, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then now that everyone's a DJ, stupid me, I'm a banker, because I didn't miss opportunities. We can speak about the mathematics of serendipity, but let's just tell stories.
Well, most DJs are broke after very good careers. Most people don't talk about that. There's many. That's like rappers. It's like MC Hammer money, and then you end up totally broke. And one thing that's really fascinating, I've always found, fascinating is you kind of quit at a high point because you're just like, I've just invested well. I don't need to fucking do this stupid shit.
I like to think I haven't quit anything.
You slowed down.
I walk away, and for me, thanks for the kind intro. I consider also myself. I'm not doing this to be an artist or a hero or an icon. I'm more of an iconoclast.
I guarantee Seth doesn't know what iconoclast means.
So every time
Iconoclast.
right. So
What do you mean there?
Told you.
I've been able to climb a few mountains, but I'm always distracted because I always see another mountain. So I was a disco DJ, but the world embraced me as a techno DJ. And then Rich Hawtin and I were like, well, we're more than techno. I mean, Rich is really, really techno, and I love him because we made it onto the international stage together.
You guys are like one of the best duos, right?
Yeah.
Like business duos in a way. You know?
And we each went our own way, and we created value in communities and collectively, independently. And I think a lot of us who are truly artistic have done that. But then I also live in that construct of various realities. So, when we leave our door, whatever we want as an artist, we can only bend the world so much to our will, but we have to operate within the rules of that reality, i.e. banks and dollars. And I mastered 10 numbers at a young age. It took me a lot of therapy to master the permutations of 26 letters, if for any of those people who are mathematicians. So therefore, it took me a greater part of my life to, put letters together into words and articulate myself.
You're doing a pretty good job at it now. So you started in 82, you said, 82, 86.
I became, at 19, the number one DJ in the best discotheque called Notorieties. It was called Notes for short. But I had been DJing, yes, in the 70s. I'm that old.
Our friend was about your record collection a few years ago. Was it like 25,000 deep?
That was the last third of my DJ stuff.
That was the last third that you had. So at
Of my
some
DJ
point,
stuff,
you had
I
about
had
60?
Maybe 75, 80.
80,000 records. So all you fucking vinyl only, I play vinyls.
And I could tell you the story of each. So I am a bit of a Rain Man. I have a bit of a mnemonic memory. I could tell you where I bought it, where I played it. And if I had 4 copies, and I would always buy 2 copies, and you'll see the worn copies and the new copies, because as a collector, luckily, I think that my OCD dominates my ADHD. Hence, I have such a nice collection.
Yeah. No, it's great to be telling these stories of like how we all really got here. When I was coming up, you and Rich were, gods, really, like in a way, sonically. It informed so much of my musical intelligence. And I get the labels between Definitive and Plus 8. Then later when you guys had started Final Scratch, right? That changed so many different things that you've been involved with have changed the game, right? And it influenced millions of people around the world. Like you were one of the first Ibiza DJs, one of the first people going to Europe, like the whole thing. So can you just really explain to us this from the number one disco in London all the way to like the early 90s? Paint a little bit of the picture of this incredible life you've lived, just to kind of catch some of the kids up.
So while going to university, having had 2 scholarships, I backed into being the number one DJ because my friend got offered a huge amount of money to play Toronto, and I was off and running, and I had a record budget, and I really was playing new wave music as a 19-year-old. But on the weekends, I was playing music, funk, and at the time, because disco was kind of dying, but for an older crowd. So it's funny because music was slower. Younger people always want it faster. So on Mondays, I was playing 130, 135, more.
It's like NRG. It's called NRG then, right?
Right. Whether it was Depeche Mode or Man Parish, right? I was a male stripper at a go-go bar. I used to do after hours in the gay club in town when everyone went out in the 80s, and everyone stayed awake for different reasons, to meet people, to cross-pollinate. It was the place to meet, the place to groove, the place to flirt. There was no Tinder. It was like going out to get picked up, and there'd be a flow. You play play the tunes, you make people connect, dance. You play a slow song, they'd hook up and new people would come in because there was a lineup at the door, which is like how you work a room. And then I learned, well, geez, if I'm turning over, how much money is being made? So I quickly learned to make 10% of the door. I was making about $2,000 a night at the end of the 80s.
In the 80s, that's cash.
So again, I think about numbers and how I can find my worth, right? And so I could afford to travel on the weekends. And I finally, one day, I'm like, damn, I should just go to Detroit. So in 1989, I went on my own with a friend of mine. We went to Buy-Right. Amazing shop. And then quickly we discovered Record Time, Mike Himes. These are
Which Record Time was like one of the original shops and distributors
Mike
for
Huckabee
so many of these
and
records.
like, all of us kind of went through that. It was like that school of work here, make some productions, press some records. And so now I was a bit burned out, and not everywhere was paying DJs money. And then I met Rich.
Rich was Richie Rich then.
Rich was Richie Rich playing on Hot Mix something radio
in the
with
basement,
Scott
in the
Gordon.
shelter, right?
Yeah. But then before I went to Detroit, I was mixing really fast, and I was listening to The Wizard. Jeff Mills influenced me because I was playing fast music on the Mondays, and when I was playing the more funk nights, it was slow. I wanted to put the energy up. Hence, that's where I got to +8. And I learned that from my disco DJs. When you're playing a record and we were playing the dubs, well, look, I'm playing whatever, even if it was whatever, Yazoo, Situation dub mix, for example. New Wave was appealing to the clubbers. And so, but it was, it was 120. And so I would play, at least on a Monday night, I would play the dub mix, right? And Derek May sampled that on one of his Transmat records. And I would play the thing at 8%, i.e. 130 BPM. And so I was playing +8. So when I heard the Wizard play fast in Mega Mix, I'm like, damn. And I just unarchived 3 mixes of me mega mixing like 50, 60 songs an hour.
Wow.
Like
hot mix
with vinyl. You've seen me playing vinyl. So I literally have that, and I got inducted into my local museum, and they converted all these files. So I literally have 3 mixes that maybe one day we'll share, but they're now there. So it's kind of funny, the origin. So I met Rich, and he was driven to make it. I think Detroit always has been. Each generation. When I met you, hey, I'm like, kid, you're in the right place. Like,
there's something about the drive from people from where we're from. It is
But each
different.
generation inspires.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
100%.
Not every generation. Some generation think that they're entitled.
I gotta say, with Detroit, the thing that kind of consistently gives the drive is it's the player-hater capital of the world.
Yeah.
Detroit people are so ornery, and they're like, fuck you. I don't care. Like, if you don't make it for the right reasons, or if you don't really put the time and work in, no one's gonna give you flowers anyway. Yeah. Right? But there's a certain type of music mentality there that I think is, and music education, that is a lot deeper than many other places. So it's, I've never heard you cuss so little, but there is like that.
I'm trying to be gracious at this stage of my life.
But there's a kind of thing with where we come through in that Canada and that kind of that northern Midwest American,
I'll speak a little bit about that, in that we were audacious, and I, because of my record collection, we did a lot of weird things. We did a silent record, and I audaciously, or we with Rich, audaciously said "Future Sound of Detroit" or something on our Technarchy, which was a big hit. Yeah. And some people were not happy that we audaciously said we are the future of Detroit. Now, I'm just trying to get attention for our record, and that was a white label. But, we took a lot of flack, but I'll never be baited into anything in that, in anywhere in the world. And I like to, the positive way to say this is, look, arts is crushing. It's like a crucible. I love the creative crucible, but I'm not going to crush people or fight people. I want to create. Part of creating is that, maybe rubbing against, right? But the creative crucible is not always fun and games.
I think guys like us, we always have helped, and that's why we got out and done so much.
Profound respect.
But I'm saying that the city itself, the general philosophy of Detroit or kind of that part of Canada is fuck you.
Yes. So when
like in a way,
Yeah.
Like you go back home, everyone's like, oh, what the fuck, this fucking guy, there's like a way of keeping you level-headed. That's especially, I think, kind of that part of the world. you know?
Being born in the Mediterranean,
Because you're Italian.
Yeah, I mean, all cultures are passive aggressive and then some. I mean, neurotic and whatnot. So, I mean, I have it in me. I mean, I was going to wear a wig for this, perhaps, but that's another one. But let's stay gracious, right? I have them.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Bill Patrick, and some of you may know me as a DJ, but I'm more than that. I'm actually a photographer. And I happen to have made a photo book with Seth's money, of course, and this is the result. The reception was lukewarm, but I'm very proud of it, and I hope you will be too.
Call now or go online and order this book. Don't delay. Do it now. Order the book. You won't be sorry. Sorry.
When Rich and I finally decided to team up, and I think I made a great decision. He really wanted to make it. And there's an irony to Rich becoming the star that he is, from my perspective and reflection. And I said earlier I'm an iconoclast, and Rich is, by all means, one of the great icons in our world.
Yeah.
And if you don't know who he is, he comes across as, wow, this guy is like, he's almost like David Bowie. He's like very iconic, whether you know him or not.
He was an alien for many years.
And then is Richie Hawtin, John's protege turned partner in crime, who went on to become one of the most important DJs on the planet. Plastic Man, minimal techno, pushing boundaries in the best clubs on earth for decades. If you don't know him, you've still been dancing to his influence without even realizing it. Richie, if you're listening, there's a spot on the couch with your name on it. Honestly, Richie is an icon and someone that we all were heavily influenced by. I used to go see him at Twilight when he was doing Dex FX 909. Incredible stuff. Much respect to Richie Hawtin.
So Rich would never want a remix because every release was a piece of art. And I'm like, yeah, but, we're the coolest label, but everyone else is making money, and Plus 8's cool as hell, except, you got to live in this reality, Rich. There's a reason why DJ culture is big. It's called remixes.
Yeah.
And we finally did remixes, and we didn't get lucky. I mean, we cared so much.
Crazy stuff done, the
great
probe
friends
stuff,
with Ramon Zenker. I went on to work with him and Oliver Bonzio at Hard Floor. But everyone influences. Let's be real. All of us in the industry, if you don't admit your influences, we all have stood on the shoulders of our giant inspirations. Let's be honest. We can't say that I woke
one right
up
now.
one day and I just became me. Rich didn't become rich because he's rich. He is rich. But, we're sons of Kraftwerk in many regards.
I mean, I am a direct,
so is Juan
I am
Atkins,
literally a direct representative of you guys.
Exactly. In your own way.
Anyone asks me, I'm like, look, I came from Rich and John. Like, that's because they're like, oh, what about all these old? I'm like, like now Carl, Craig, and I were really good friends and stuff. But during that time in late 90s, early 2000s, when I started going out, like, it was you guys, right? That was Detroit. That was like, we were like people, everyone with the Plus 8 tattoos. It was like almost like this hysteria of suburban kids who would come to the city every weekend and then have these parties, And then like I was 16, sneaking into clubs, sneaking into Motor, doing all this stuff. And it was just like, I remember too, it was like, because you were saying you guys, and this is something that's really always connected with me and how I've looked at my career, is the artistry, right? Like Plus 8, and I think the ideas behind even Definitive, everything that you guys have always done had an art connection, like very much so. And like you said, the music was the art, and that was like an intention. Where like I think today a lot of people focus, let's say, more so on the commercialization or entertainment of music, where I feel like maybe that's changed how music's released. I'd like to see your kind of interpretation of those different times and kind of how that's led to different types of commerce.
I appreciate the creativity of being an artist. I learned to try and understand consumerism. They're not the same. More than ever, we have these issues. I'm a storyteller, so I run my course, and if I wanted to be relevant, I'd have to be more of an entertainer because a lot of what we do on the highest scale is about spectacle.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, especially these days.
For those of us who are storytellers, the curation and the care that we put into our creativity, I love alliterations.
Yeah.
are lost on the consumers. And it was easier then when people were doing bad pop music, especially bad metal. You know, it was great to be against, say, Motley Crue or Def Leppard, because and then some of the commercial music came. You know, some of the, you know, bad rave stuff, but it was obvious. But now it's all the electronic music, and most people can't tell the difference.
Exactly,
but I painfully can, as you and as you.
Yeah.
You know, other people can't.
And then you come off sometimes as a salty old man, and you're like, this just isn't good.
Yeah.
Or it's like people putting out stuff that already came out before, and you're like, the first time it was better. So,
in one of the few things I released it softly on Instagram. I wrote this 3-piece thing called Ode to DJ Life. And I said, look, I'm not here to lament or criticize, but the reason why I stepped away from being primarily just a touring DJ is I find myself lost in a derivative culture of samples, sampling, samples.
I'm sorry, you have to run that back.
I find myself lost in a derivative culture of samples, sampling, samples. I mean, you know, and that I know where the music comes from. But when you listen to, you know, one of my pet peeves, and I wrote, I love Bill Withers. If you listen to Bill Withers, you can't but only appreciate the beauty in the instrumentation, the sincerity in the voice. Bill Withers' voice is the voice of an angel. But some people will do a remix, and even worse, they'll put his original, and they'll take all the soul out of the music, and they'll put these terrible autocratic beats, pablum that works in, say, Tulum or Bali or some beach clubs in Ibiza. Oh, yeah. And that hurts my feelings. Nowadays, we need saccharine music because we need to be happy. And we can get into a whole philosophical wormhole on, you know, achievement culture. And we're all supposed to be happy. But an artist needs to think, reflect. Sometimes it's a challenge. The pain of being different, you know, or how can I express myself? You know, I love the tortured artist. I'm not one. Luckily, all of the tortured artists I listen to, I preferred to play and make people happy.
Yeah.
I torture myself and self-medicate with my bottle of whiskey or whatever else alone in my intellectual void, you know.
In the void of nothingness.
Yes, and it's pretty busy in there.
As we can see. But it's like that tortured artist thing does lead to like a lot of creative output, you know? And in a time right now, I think right now we're kind of heading again towards possibly some darker times, which I feel like as an artist, I'm like, oh shit, we can get back to work. But we've had this pretty since the 90s to now, a pretty good life. It's been pretty upward. And like, it's gotten to a point where it's so easy. I mean, half the DJs don't even, I was seeing DJs now without even headphones.
Yeah.
They don't even fucking wear headphones. So
Yeah.
I'm like, when you've gone so far to like getting to a point of playing music where you're like, I'm not even trying to be an artist or anything. This is purely pop entertainment. Surely the pendulum has to swing back the other way, correct? I mean, you've seen the edges, the ups and downs from, you know, 82, 70s to now. Where do you think the general path is going?
I think that we're at the peak of spectacle in music.
Peak spectacle.
Yeah. Spectacle, you know.
Peak
stuffed toys, you know, foam, confetti, whatever, more lube,
Cakes,
whatever.
more send in a bucket of lube.
Yeah, man, and that's why you don't touch the DJ mixers because they're covered. Because if you got lube and stuff, who can mix? That's why you need to push a button and then just jump up and down.
They're covered in the theoretical spectacle of lube.
So look, I think, you know, it's a struggle because I've always had a sense of mortality, being the oldest and having had the family first. And I wanted to make sure I was never poor again in my life. So foolish me, I took the time to wake up and make sure that I wasn't going to get dinged with a tax bill. I wanted to make sure that my kids would have a good life and I could afford to give them a good life. You know, when they came here, their dad, was a normal dad until they came here. And I have 15 flyers when I was on the brink of fame. I've got 15 billboards on the island. And I think my 8 and 5-year-old kid was like, Dad's a rock star. They're kind of looking at themselves like his face is all over the island. And, I stopped doing after parties because my kids were here. I took my kids to the beach. I made sure I would never be a slave to the artist side of me who was then desperate to have to go begging for money.
Yeah.
It's hard being yesterday's favorite. When you used to make 500, 1,000, you get up to 10,000, nowadays 100,000. But the minute you go from, if you can ever make $100,000 in a night, I never made that, so I'm technically working class.
Yeah.
But let's not pigeonhole ourselves with cohort definitions, right?
Oh, working class DJ then.
So it's painful because the magic is gone. I'm yesterday's favorite, but you can't admit it. I'm still relevant. You know what? Actually, it's great that someone else wants to be famous. And so, but right now, stepping back to the original comment, I can choose not to be a spectacle because I feel like I'm a clown. I'm a courtesan, but I'm not a prostitute. I won't swallow for spectacle.
I think so many artists, especially at that point where they were at the peak of fame, and then they try to keep up, they kind of start to do things that ends up sending them lower, but it's you try to kind of sell yourself out just to stay in the game. I think a lot of that as well comes back to financial planning. You had always told me, you were like, Seth, maybe a little bit of planning with your money isn't a bad idea. And I was like, yeah. Then I had some kids and I was like, this guy is fucking spitting, right? I'm like, he's spitting dimes, But it's horrifying, It's horrifying to look at that life of what your life was. I've at COVID I was broke, and I look back at these years of all this kind of money I had made, and I was like, holy shit, I lost everything, and now I've got kids, and I've kind of flipped that game up, And I try to tell the young DJs, I'm like, guys, go buy a house, go get some. You were once telling me about how you got to rent yourself your own house, Which I'm just realizing now that's a great way to cut your taxes, But so many young DJs out there, if you're watching this, financial planning is it's not a bad thing. And underground people think, oh, you're selling out, you're doing this, you're doing that. No, this is our job. And looking at it like a job, which I think few people do, or few people think they're above, to look at it like a financial thing isn't really a nasty thing to do, And that's maybe how you guys got into more the +8 finance and then doing the fund is trying to expand this. Is that part of that kind of ethos, was always looking at the planning of everything or looking at this in a much more macro way instead of micro,
I do confess that a great part of my life is living in a macro world. And
your hobbies being a normal guy.
Yeah, I'm not good at being normal because I just I stay up for different reasons than other people. But yeah, I mean, if I can bring order to my life and help people, the first hour is always free, joking as a financial joke there. Yeah, we wanted to pull people together and go, hey, together as independents, let's pool our money together. I kind of did that ad hoc. And as independents, it makes a lot of sense for us to have a lot of commonalities, whether it's going out to dinner and commiserating and having our own support group of us artists, how do we help the real DJs, or how do we have a focus? Whether it's I'll tell people look, it's as simple as don't pander, at Beatport, when we had Beatport, I fought very hard for a high per unit royalty. So if you gave us an exclusivity, we took 40%, which is $1, but $1.50 went to the label and the artist. Who wouldn't want to sell 10,000 units and make $15,000? Well, when I was there, I cared. Just because I might be smarter than someone doesn't mean I need to screw them from the top down.
Yeah.
I like to create a dinner, and everyone should eat. And so if I can figure it out for myself, I want to help other people. And then obviously in a capitalist construct, gosh, I mean, you know, why not consider working with us? But I don't want to manage people's money.
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything.
No, it's never been a push.
I'll tell you what I really think, but I really am not here to save the world. I'm just here to leave my footprint and my actions. I think our actions are what we leave behind as artists.
As
or
people.
touching someone by the story you tell, right? If all we are is just a DJ playing other people's records, there's nothing wrong with that because it's called a collage in art. If we put together a fabric of music with other people's records, darn right, we should admit our influences, darn right, we should make money because it's the zeitgeist. There's nothing wrong with any of this. So at one point, some people became so underground that they killed themselves or didn't sell records. So underground people,
we're there now.
Get a reality check. If you're so underground that no one likes you, it's called get a day job. Other than that, be an artist and live with some reality checks. Hence, try to be like me, start a hobby, trying to be normal, you know, and figure it out.
But part of the neuroses and the sleep deprivation, do you think that played a part in you being such a crazy innovator of so many things? You know, because we were talking about Beatport, we're talking about Final Scratch, we're talking about all these kind of industry-defining moments that really you've kind of been in the back like, yeah. I remember the night you came in to demo Final Scratch, right? Then Rich showed up. It was like on a Tuesday or Wednesday. It was like a midweek, I feel like that night. Maybe it was a Friday.
I remember the night, but yeah.
I just remember that day. It was like being at that Sex Pistols show. It was like the day the world changed. Because from then on, the digital world entered DJing, right? And a part of me even becoming a, let's say, big DJ, famous DJ, whatever, was because of Traktor, because of Final Scratch, right? Because me and my friends, before, I remember, like we all were record collectors. I was working at Melodies and Memories for years. But you like had to really go out and search. This is before Discogs. I mean, I don't use Discogs because I love the joy of looking for a record for 20 years and finally finding it for $4. It's just like, fuck, I fucking got it. I waited this whole time. Now everything's so accessible. But before that, I remember, like, you would only hear certain DJs playing, and that's the only time you could hear those songs. Like, and DJs would break these records. But with Final Scratch coming out, it changed the whole, zeitgeist of what this kind of industry became. Now we can just show up with a USB stick, and it's just like, okay, I've got 20,000 songs on there, you know? But before that, idea was even like, it was just revolutionary. It was impossible, you know?
There's a lot to be said in life about first principles, learning from scratch, whether it's cooking or just about anything.
Great chef.
And so with music, I mean, I did learn music. I played steel guitar, got into guitar. Steel guitar is as psychedelic as it gets. There was no Roland, 303s. But boy, if you listen to some country and western stuff with a Hawaiian guitar, it's called, but steel guitar, darn, that's pretty psychedelic. I'm really into Willie Nelson lately, but that's for another podcast. The work put into the discovery or making a song, boy, it was worth it. And then when it's too easy, so I'm so old that I used to, I didn't have a calculator, but luckily I can do it really fast in my head. Now, there's nothing wrong with the calculator coming, but most people don't understand fundamental mathematical concepts. It's not the only, connection between the two. So it's a little too easy, and then everyone's a DJ.
I mean, I'm entering my unk phase, and you were always my unk. Since I've been, literally since I was 16, every time I saw you, you've always been so open and welcoming and just always giving me cool, also father advice, dad, like life advice this whole way. And it's like, I always use that as a way to mirror myself to younger artists, right? And it's not like taking artists in or it's just like, hey, I see you're a good kid. Let me give you a little a little taste of like what I've learned along the way, you know. And I think it's so important for artists of different generations to talk to each other, you know, and for kids to be able to hear like, okay, there's a lot more of this, because so many people are in this just running blind, you know, and they're not really investigating in the craft. They're just seeing kind of in front of them, or seeing side to side of their peers without really going so deep into this culture that we've built for all these years. You know, there's many different generations before, and that was kind of part of why I wanted to have you on here, to just kind of give some of this great, the world of an Acquaviva-isms, or like, you know, like,
So,
in
okay,
a way.
let me put it in a really cheesy way. I'm too cheap to afford a bodyguard, so why would I ever screw anybody? You know, it takes about the same amount of money to be nice to someone and say a nice word, instead of have someone waiting for you outside a club going, "You mofo, how dare you insult, you know, look at my girl," or look at, you know, like, look, yeah, you know, I keep that stuff to myself. But can you say something nice to people and avoid a fight? Or, you know, it's
cool to be kind.
Remember, it's cool to be kind, Nick Lowe. I mean, there you go. You can look. I mean, there you go. I'm just showing my Rain Man-isms. Okay, I'll be honest. There was another part of me in the '80s until I got schooled in the humility of accept success if it comes out of Detroit, and I see the downfall of, you know, some other people. I thought I was like, you know, the best DJ I ever heard, the smartest guy I ever met, and then I started traveling the world. And then I met Rich. It's like, wow, this guy's more motivated than me. And I met, you know, Kevin, who's like top of the world, and he's like family man. I'm like, wow, there is a chance to be all of the above. You know, Derek was precocious, our older brother. I think we're the same age. But, you know, already Detroit gave me more than Toronto ever did on my first 2 meetings. You know, Kevin's like, I can have a family. And then I learned the story of Neil Rushton. And I did my own version of it, respecting Detroit, but moving on when, you know, us Canadian guys, like, we settled for the world. We quickly had our second logo. London, Ontario. Yeah. Windsor, not Windsor Castle. Rotterdam, Speedy J. Tokyo, luckily Kenichi had joined at the time. But it was a global thing. We just want to be part of the global community. And Detroit, you know, we had Kenny. And it's just good. And we just name check the cities that were part of our family.
It's so great that you're talking about these friendships, right? Because, I mean, obviously the show Flirting with Friendships, but I often tell a lot of the younger kids, right? If you want to take your movement or whatever you're doing, you know, like, you know, it's not about trying. I mean, it is also partially about trying to look at the bigger guys. You know, when I was younger, I had like kind of plans. I'm going to sign with these guys, sign with Rich, sign with all these different people. Matt Johnson, because you want to be in an area of the kind of contemporaries, right? You want to be viewed in a certain way. But I also tell the kids, it's so important, look next to you, because all the people that you need and everything is already there, right? It's about you guys creating your own thing and looking at, you know, all these other little artists around you teaming together and talking to each other, right? And that's how these great movements happen. When people ask me about how Jamie and I and all this, like, we were just hanging out with each other. And it was like, yeah, it was just a bunch of cool artists coming up with ideas, making music, bouncing the ideas back and forth to each other. Like, for example, I was just playing at Sunwaves, and they're like, this whole Sunwaves, you know, Romanian community with the music, all this. And like, I didn't find out till recently, but there's a Telegram that they have amongst each other where they send each other the music and nonstop. So they're like, how do you get this music? And it's like,
yeah.
Well,
we used to do that with Skype.
Yeah.
And we had, I remember back years ago, people would ask me, like, what's your advice to become like a DJ successful? And I always said, have a crew of like-minded friends that you hang out with and inspire each other musically. I had that from a young age in New York.
We have that.
We had that moving to Berlin together. We still have it. Yeah. We inspire each other musically and creatively, and that can get you further than doing it. You're not going to do it on your own.
No, do it on your own, or also just trying to be out with someone else, right? Or looking up, and I have to be on this person label or this or that, and that does help. But it's really about creating those things yourself. I mean, before you guys actually just created the whole genre from scratch in a way, the whole industry, you know, in the 90s to now. I mean, in a way, definitively you did, you know? But like, generally, would you say the same thing? It's about those relationships of people next to you.
Absolutely. Great comment, Bill, in that community is everything. And, you know, I've straddled, certainly in my international life, different generations. you know. But then we've all got our tribes. But I was traveling to a few record shops because I valued the selector. I valued my community. And I confess, still to this day with my DJ friends, can we just share something beautiful? I don't even care about electronic music, but, you know, and after, when we close, I'd love to get your 20 most beautiful songs. Preferably not electronic.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's okay to share. It's also, I was never a DJ who hid what my record was. I always
posted charts.
I was always able to get that record because I always paid money.
Yeah.
But I would take a bootleg. I would take whatever, and then you try to respect it. And it's okay to share music, but all of us also have to make sure that we support music. So it's not a black and white line. It's about community, and we all bring each other up and hopefully figure out a way to make money. Whether it's getting paid right for a gig, making sure that maybe you get acknowledged for doing a record. I really have a hard time with my friends, and I've worked with a lot of engineers, and if you search the internet, I've done probably 300 things. Stupid me, I've shared all my credits. Why I didn't pay some kid $500 and say, get the hell out of here? Well, maybe I'm just a stupid capitalist. Again, I just can't afford a bodyguard. So, you know,
you're a good guy.
You know?
Yeah.
And so you got to give credit, acknowledgement. Sometimes it's zero money. So, you know, don't sell your soul for a few $100s because I'm an engineer and some big DJ buys you out. You know, you might as well starve for another week because $300 ain't going to get your rent paid.
Yeah.
So it's okay to share. It's okay. And then we figure out how to be either hobbyists. It's okay to be a hobbyist because we all hang out at home and play some music for free to each other.
It's a dream.
But when we get out in public, we need to grow up.
For sure.
You know, it was Sean Reeves who told me, you know, when Rich and I did the farewell tour around 2000, one of our last shows was St. Andrews Hall. And it was really then that, you know, Sean and Ryan
And Sean, Ryan Lee,
and
that's-
Senor
that's-
Troxler and all you guys, you know, coming out. I remember doing some shows also with Matthew Deere, like, you know, when you guys were in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, Matt went to the same school as me.
This new generation, I mean, you know, and I lived in my own world, and I was nice enough to say hello, and then I reconnected a little older.
You were connected later. But
Right?
the hellos meant the world to us.
But Sean,
just saying hello
it was
to
your
us
time.
was like the whole thing. You
And
know?
so luckily I didn't insult anyone because he could win it. He could kick my ass in a fight. So that's probably why I was nice to him. Even though he was 15, he was taller than me, and, you know, I got a Napoleon complex.
I was tall
you know, I got
and
a lot of
very,
issues.
very geeky, so
Very
probably
geeky.
not.
Aaron, pull up
But I'm
some
glad we
photos.
never fought because you probably would whoop my ass.
I've only been in public in one fight at the old Miami, and
Yeah, you tried to kick me off the booth, and I had my door. No, I'm just joking.
No,
I'm
I
joking.
knocked this guy out because he was hitting these, like this guy. We said this, you know, remember the old Miami parties? This
Great
really,
times. Wow.
really famous parties
Yeah.
that we used to throw with Ryan and Sean. And this one time, this guy had like attacked this couple, right? And we never had a fight. It was always like, and very funny because all the bouncers were all ex-veterans, right? Because it was at a veterans hall. And for some reason that day, no one was in sight. So I went down, tried to break up the fight. And then I jump in, I grab the guy, and I'm like, look, fight's over. Because they were attacking a woman. I'm like, this is not fucking going down. Then he tries to do the swim move, go back in, and then I just cut one hit. Wow! Fucking knock this guy fucking straight out. Then the bouncers came, the whole fucking thing. They were so happy because they were, war veterans. They're like, you fucking yeah! I'm like patting me on the back. I'm like, yeah. But then afterwards, it's funny because Zip was there, right? And Zip was just like, he's German. He was just in this shocked moment. He's like, oh my God, you hit that guy. And I was like, Zip, we're in Detroit. Sometimes you got to knock a motherfucker out, Don't be impressed. Like I saw the other day with Paul Krockenberner. This guy attacked him. I was like, I would have thrown hands, bro.
His restraint, it was remarkable. I cannot believe he let that guy just...
But these are like almost Altamont.
Yeah.
A lot of our early raves in the 90s were kind of like the raves of the 60s. And at the 60s, you had the bikers. There was no fence, in Altamont with the Rolling Stones.
Yeah,
but all
yeah.
kinds of crazy stuff was happening. I just listened to the White Album again by the Beatles, and boy, did that album trigger stuff. Helter Skelter, Charles Manson.
Well,
I'm just
yeah.
saying. So
Yeah.
be careful at the influences, but it was too easy and people had access. And all it takes is one crazy person, one person dies. And so it's sad, but that's when the romance and the naivete, the sincerity, there's a lot of words you can use for that.
Yeah.
And
we had that with
we're
rave
at
culture.
That stage in our world.
Yeah.
We're in the stadium rock phase of electronic music, if I may be so bold.
100%.
The early 90s were like the 60s, and then the 70s became a bit more corporate, as our...
So you're saying that right now we're in like the 80s stadium rock. We're in
Hello, Cleveland.
Hello, Cleveland.
Spinal Tap.
Okay, yeah.
Every city's the same.
I'm a really bad.
No, it's okay.
Movie quotes are not my thing.
No, let's stick to song lyrics.
You can fuck. Actually,
stick to song lyrics. It's
song lyrics and movie. I have zero. I cannot tell you one song straight through the lyrics.
I can, and I quoted American Pie.
I got not a single lyric in my mind. Like it's so weird. It's the beats, the whole song structure. Got you. Lyrics of song.
Read my ode to DJ life. I quote Don McLean, American Pie. And then when we're talking about being underground, I love Paul Simon. And he writes about being the life of an artist. It's a lonely life, but that is worth some money.
I love that.
It's on Rhythm of the Saints.
I love that.
Super amazing. Paul Simon also in Boy in the Bubble and Graceland, great album. Every generation puts a hero up the pop charts. Paul Simon is genius.
Every generation puts a hero up in the pop chart. I want to talk about one more, another thing though, because you've done all these different things. We've talked about, all the kind of technological contributions you've made as well. You did a film, I remember, and now you've just kind of done a forward or been part of writing this book about the early days in Chile because, obviously you were there before Ricardo and everyone else. Tell us a little bit about your book, Euphoria, a little product placement here.
There's a backhanded little note. I'm trying to be gracious. I think I was a bit of a rock star. I was invited to write the forward. So there was quite a German-Chilean connection. And when techno exploded, I made a bunch of friends. Roland Lesker at Delirium, Heiko Anata, who went on to do Robert Johnson. And I was working with a promoter from Darmstadt called Ricardo Villalobos. I didn't know the politics of all that, but then all these people decided to do a rave in the desert in November of '94 in Arica. There was an eclipse. I couldn't go because I was hosting MTV Europe with Richie Hawtin, as one does, in Prague with Horst Weidenmuller, who passed away from Studio K7, who's another very important person. So Ricardo's return to Chile, the first electronic party ever, was the following week. And they purposely, since I couldn't go, did a party so that Ricardo could play. And Ricardo and I played at a club called Oz. And we spoke about that. And Luciano told me Oz had these really crazy, just crazy cult from Oregon, all of the hippies who left Chile. But I was there. But basically, the scene started in '94, Ricardo's return. A young kid who reminded me was part of my entourage. A kid called Luciano was 17. He was my driver. So I never remember the first time people meet. But I love Luciano to death. And then Ricardo, and you see the rapport we have as different families, and they've become certainly leaders of their generation. And it really is the story of it's the story of 30 years of cultures. And Chile, has their own issues, like Detroit, whatever.
Yeah.
But they did the largest. They went on to do the largest party. With Dr. Mata. They did the Love Parade that got probably the biggest outdoor event ever, 2006. They got 1 million. And so this is the celebration of all the generations.
Adam Hart was part of that whole situation too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Martin, the guy from Senor Coconut, was my principal driver.
Wow.
And I realized, wow, that was my driver.
Yeah, it's funny how culture is actually... Mass culture is really decided by such small groups of people.
Yes.
At the end of the day, people think these huge movements and whatever it may be, like, hey, that's our book there with Bill.
We have to trade books.
But we can trade one. You can take that.
Okay.
But how so many different people think that, like, all these things that have happened are, these big movements, it really comes down to a small group of people around the world. And that thing that you said is every star, what was it?
Well, Paul Simon in Boy in the Bubble, every generation puts a star up the pop charts. But it means more than that. Every cohort will have its archetype. You'll have the Neil Youngs, the David Bowies, the Bruce Springsteens. You can almost, each person fills an archetype for a cohort based on personalities and predictive behaviors. But again, let's not go
Of
there.
that time, right? Of that
Yes,
time.
but each generation, you can draw the analogy from how people will gravitate from a certain group.
I think we were all, me and you were both those people that got chosen in many ways. That's a really great analogy.
Yeah.
But anyway, John, I just wanted to say thank you so much
Thank you.
for coming
Thank you.
here, gracing us with so many of these great stories. It's really an honor and a dream, and just
My
the
pleasure.
biggest thanks for all that you've done for my career and life. And I hope that this podcast really turns a lot of kids on to like so many other things and some more of your works.
Thank you.
Honestly.
A pleasure. And thank you for everyone listening and then hopefully getting something out of this.
Oh, amazing. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Flirting with Friendship is produced by executive producers Nikita Stanley, Jesse Rogg, Craig Pettigrew, and Seth Troxler. Seth is an EP? What is going on here? Their co-executive producer is Lee Adams. Aaron Kulik is our live production director. He's also a VFX and motion graphics supervisor. Our director of photography is Lucas Strebel. Yes, we filmed this. You can go watch it on YouTube. Which brings me to Veronica Gessa, our incredible set designer, also known as Moki Baby or Moki. Check her work out. It's really incredible. Again, watch it on YouTube. Our editor is Tyler Christie. Our sound design and original composition is by Jasper Van Dyke. Seth was our music supervisor. Wait a second. No, he's not. I'm pretty sure I was. Not sure why Seth is getting all these credits. Anyways, who else? Our camera operator is Joseph Hawtin, aka NYX. A lot of nicknames here. Our camera assistant is Jake. I don't know Jake's last name. Sorry about that, Jake. It's Jake Smith. Our production sound mixer is Joel Yule. And last but not least, big thank you to our team at Kizzy Music for all of our additional music, and to TV Store Paris for their help in our set design. That is it. I'm out of here. Bye. Yo, is this still on? If you're still listening, you either really like this show or your AirPods are somewhere in a washing machine. Either way, thanks for sticking around. That was Flirting with Friendship, and we're doing this again week after next on Tuesday and every other Tuesday after that, unless the grid collapses or Seth forgets what day it is. Once again, this was a Stratosonic production. Yes, somehow this is professional. And I'm legally obligated to tell you to follow us on all social media platforms at Flirting with Friendship. Watch the video podcast on YouTube, subscribe, leave a review, rate the show, and send it to someone else. Remember, be good to your friends. And if you can't be, well, call us and tell us why. 866-608-BFFS. Seriously, we have a phone number. Bye.